Our talk will take the form of two parts. My part is the dry part. You can endure that. And then after that is William. And I think it's, I suppose, I belong to a group called Doak Ancestry Group, and we had never embarked on this type of thing before, and so we had a lot to learn. It was a big learning curve from us from the very beginning. What I have to say at this stage is it took funding to do this project, and the funding came through Grow South Antrim, through the Rural Development Fund, Axis 3. So we got money from that. We got a 75% grant, and then we had to find the rest one way or another. But it was a learning curve that I hope we have got a lot from, and we hope it will continue. There's a legacy with the work that we've already done. We've done it with 3 villages, Toom, Doak and Whitehead. So here we were in a position where Grow South Antrim had tried to do a Living Memories project with Leith outside Edinburgh, to try to do something with the coal mining villages and try to compare those communities with the communities of involved in South Antrim at that stage. And the project at that stage was called the 3 Villages Living Memories Project. But then we found out we wanted to deal with more than just the villages of Doak, Whitehead and Toom, so we changed the name of it to the South Antrim Living Memories. First of all, we had to apply for funding, but to do that we had to create a structure that we could work to, and this is the structure. The aims of our thing were quite simple: to build links between the 3 villages, to compare the similarities and differences in the historical and current experience. That is that Whitehead was a seaside town, Doak was an agricultural town with strong links to the linen industry, and Toom had a fishing background and also a farming background. So we need to see what the similarities were with those 3 communities. And also, one thing we need to do was to build up friendships between the 3 villages, especially so with Toom and Doak, because the 2 councils then, or the 3 councils, the 2 councils were merging, Newtonabbey and Antrim, and Toom being the largest village in Antrim, and Newtonabbey being, or Doak being the largest village in what was Newtonabbey. So we wanted to create a good working relationship with between the 2 villages. And another thing was to break down the generation break down the barrier between the generations. One thing you should realise is that most of the people involved in this project were not in their first flower of youth. I would probably be the youngest, so enough said. The objectives were easily identified as well. First of all, we had to appoint a steering committee representing the 3 villages. That was a problem, because here are the 3 villages, and although they sound like they're in South Antrim, they're an awful distance apart, and we decided to pick 2 people from each of the 3 villages. So there were 2 from Doak, 2 from Toom and 2 from Whitehead, and we had to agree on the way forward. That was good fun, because you don't always agree on what you want to do. Then we wanted to commence an oral history project in each individual village community, it's 3 villages, to exchange best practice and experiences with cooperation partners in the 3 villages. The best practice being in the way that they delivered the project in their area. So we learned from each other, we learned from the mistakes, and we learned from what was best practice. We wanted to host these are all high-flying ideas we had before we got a halfpenny, before we started the project, to host inter-village visits, because we found that it would be a good way for people to get to know the 3 communities and also to get to know the people in them. Then we had to train at least 2 volunteers per village in this reminiscence, interviewing and sound recording skills. None of us have had plenty of us reminisce. At our age you do reminisce, but recording skills and interviewing may have been something we weren't terribly good at. And then to undertake an explanatory event on family history in each village. So there you are. To record memories of 15 participants in Toom, Doak and Whitehead. That was 45 interviews we planned to undertake. And those interviews were audio recordings and some video recordings. The audio recordings were quite a problem because none of us had done that before. So we had to try to get ourselves in a position where we could do that and train. And so as we were going to start the project, we all knew what we were doing. It turned out that 2 people in each of the villages doing this wouldn't have been enough. You would have needed more people than that, because you need somebody to work the sound recording equipment, you need somebody to ask the questions, and you needed somebody to hand around the tea. But also, not everybody could make it every night, so we needed a team of people. But anyway, this is the declaration we made at the beginning. We also wanted to share all of the information that we had with whomever wanted, in California and Canada, wherever they wanted to have that access to that information. So a website was the best way of doing this. We also produced a book. That's the book, South Antrim Living Memories. The words of this book are the words of the people who were interviewed. Very few other words. So everything that's written in that book was said to us by the people that we interviewed. The people that we interviewed, by the way, were all born maybe in the 20s and 30s. And most of the stuff they talked about was the very late 20s, the 30s, and the early 40s. So it was that middle section of the 20th century. The book itself, we hope to distribute as widely as possible, but especially in schools and in libraries and where anybody else wanted to use it as a research resource. And then to create a reusable historical resource for use by future generations. That was the thing we had all the way through, because one of the problems that we had was that all of us in the group of our age realised that we didn't ask sufficient questions when we were young. So we were sitting and we didn't have the questions to answer, we didn't have the answers about our own backgrounds. We'd asked our father some things, or our mother some things, or our grandfather, but surprisingly large number of fathers and mothers didn't have time to answer the questions, or they thought it frivolous. So we started saying we need to have that information for the generations behind us. And that was one of the ideas. I know it was maybe something that was difficult to attain, but it's something we thought if we leave that behind for at least the generations behind us, they would have some start. The activities themselves that we actually got involved in were the recruitment of adult volunteers. One of the, volunteers are a hard thing to get, and we had posters like these all over the place asking for volunteers. All we didn't have was Kitchener at the front of it saying your project needs you. But we found out our Doak Ancestry Group, for instance, has 7 people. The group in Tidal had about 5 or 6 people, and the group in Whitehead didn't. They had few people. So this was trying to do this project with relatively few people. So we needed more and more volunteers. The training of volunteers was really important. William was able to secure for us a programme of training, especially in the complex skills of interviewing people and getting from those people what you needed to get. That was very useful. So people from the 3 villages came together to train. So at least we all were starting off from the same place. We conducted the interviews with local people, and we hoped that the collection and archiving of stories, photographs, memories, etc. would be of great use, either to put on the website or some other place, where if we had those, we had them forever. School records, for instance, documents that people had when they were in different organisations, so it was useful. That was the fantastic technology that we had in each village. This bit here is that's the sound recording machine. This here, it's a Tascam sound recorder. It's about the size of a big mobile phone, and those two lugs on the top of it, you can ignore. We plug it into a microphone, which is this, a stereo microphone, and they're recorded. Everything's recorded onto one of these wee cards, and that's what we had. It's really good quality recordings. It was recorded in a format that was easily transferable. They were big files, but it was easy to transfer this recording and edit it and do what we needed to do with it. This wee thing at the bottom is a scanner. It's about this length, and we scan documents and photographs. So everybody we went to interview, we asked them if they had any photographs that we could use. Pardon me. We felt that it's not right to take photographs away from people's houses if we can, because very often those photographs get lost, and they are precious. So we were able to scan the photographs in each of the houses. We went to do the interviews in people's own homes. The other activities we had were the oral recordings made available to libraries and museums. We hoped at one stage we could archive these, and maybe we still will be able to, in the Ulster Folk and Transport Museum, where people can go there and access them. We're still working at that one. School projects. We have one local primary school in Doak. There's a primary school, two primary schools around Antrim, and there's one in Whitehead. We hope to go in and do talks and to the kids there. We've done the one in Doak, and the kids knew it was going to happen. And the amount of stuff that they come in with, these are primary school kids, I mean P6 and 7, they come in with all of this stuff, and they'd ask their grannies and their grandads and their fathers and mothers all the questions, and they really were prepared. What was meant to be a 40-minute session with the kids turned into a 2-hour session, and they had to go because their mothers were sitting outside waiting for them, but they loved it. So that was, for us, it was an optimistic thing. The initiation of school projects, pardon me, including artwork and writing, including things, that's done. Part of the curriculum now is local history in the primary schools, where it wasn't before. And now at least we've been able to provide some of those resources. We don't work in the schools per se, but we had hoped that we would create some projects. But if it's being done in the school, we're hoping to move out into the post-primary schools in Ballyclare. There are two of them, secondary school and Ballyclare High School, and maybe other schools where kids attend. Inter-community visits between the three villages for those participating in the project. Our first inter-village visit was, we were lucky enough and to get an opportunity to get involved in a seminar that was being held in Queen's, but there was an outreach element to that, and it was called Presbyterians and Catholics in Ireland and Scotland. Pardon me. Well, that's one thing we have in Toom and Doak and Whitehead, plenty of Protestants and Catholics. And one of the things we wanted to do was to get people talking, because traditionally they're different types of communities, and we wanted to be able to present them as something where they would talk about it. So the first one was held in Toom, and Dr. Scott Spurlock gave that talk. He's an American guy who flew in from America. Somebody picked him up in the airport and brought him to Toom. He was brain dead when he arrived with us, but he really is an animated person. He's very, very good to listen to. I'm sure he was tired, but he gave the talk, and it really went down well. What happened from that was that we decided the project's finished, we've no grant anymore, everything's finished, but we thought we're going to continue this and continue this series of talks. We've had one so far on the 20th of May, the Ulster Plantation. The one after that is in September. It'll be in Toom. So we're alternating the villages. Oliver Cromwell and Professor Cont will give it. And then Doak Primary School, again, for the 78 rebellion. And then steps to partition, poverty, welfare, the workhouse and the poor law in the 19th century, Irish migration, and then the last one, which will be in Doak, the loyal orders and the ancient order of Hibernians. It's no mistake that we're doing both of those in the same night. All of those topics we felt would challenge people to get involved in the discussion. It wasn't just something that we want to sit and listen to a talk. That was a challenging thing. So we're really looking forward to the continuation of those that go right the way through to the end of May 2016. And here we go again. So we decided, some of the people who went to the first talk of this series was William Rolson and the Ulster Plantation. They asked if we decided to record each of the talks, very much the way it's done anywhere, don't waste it, record it. And then people said, could you give us a CD of that? Well, what do you do? Another challenge. So that's the front of William's CD for this one. So it was given out, because there was so much detail in it, and because a lot of the people who were there wanted to continue studying that subject, because not everybody's got access to a computer, especially at our tender age, then we thought CDs are a good way of getting the information about. So that was that CD. What was more interesting and that came out of our project was, and we didn't have funding for this either, every person that we interviewed, we hope to do and edit their recording. Some of the recordings are 2 hours long, some of them are less, of course. Edit the recording, put it on a CD, and give it to that family as a legacy forever. This guy here, William Andrew Turkington, he's 97, is that right? 97? 96, give or take. And those photographs all came from him. He lives in a home in Ballyclare. Pardon me. All of these photographs here, that's William Andrew there. He worked in Coggery Mill. That's in there. He played football for Ballyclare Comrades and for Coggery. Here's another football team. He's somewhere, he's got a shock of curly hair. He's in that somewhere. And this one here is his brother-in-law, who was a bomber, who worked he was a Lancaster bomber crew member during the Second World War. He was killed. I'm Blowen. I don't come from Doak, but he's still well known in Doak. He was a local hockey player, local football player, same as William Andrew, sportsman. But that photograph sitting on William Andrew's windowsill in a frame, how much does that mean to somebody? Those were William Andrew's medals. He served the whole of the war in the RAF. And that meant so much to him. So then, how could we not have the CDs? How could we not give them to people? So we did that wee bit of a collage. We meet every Wednesday to edit the recordings, and then we'll make a CD from that. They're usually about somewhere less than an hour, whatever goes onto a CD, and then we'll present those to the people. It's been really very useful. It's been a lot of work, and it's good for us because we revisit the interviews that we had. It wasn't just, you've got the interview done, we're away now. You actually have to revisit that again and think what we want to keep in and what we want to exclude. Volunteer commitment. In order to get and this is what advice I would give to any village wanting to do this, one of the things we had to come up with was 25% of the grant. And so volunteer time you're allowed to have as payment in kind. So we could count on each hour that we claimed, and we're paid £10.61 for that hour. So we reckoned we would give something like 345 hours at £10.61. That mounted up. It was much short of the 25% that we needed, but the three councils gave us the shortfall. So that was Newton Abbey Council, Carrick Council, and Antrim Council gave us the shortfall, and we were able to pay our 25% of it. As it turned out, this figure here of 345 hours is multiply it by 3 or 4. That's what the voluntary commitment was. But when we were claiming for this at the beginning, we thought 345 hours was all it would take, and that's all the hours we could give. But it turned out when you were doing the project, you needed a lot more than that. So the commitment you have from people is very important. Finally, the project website, that's it there, www.southamptonlivingmemories.co.uk. We have on it quite a lot of stuff. We hope to add to it. We hope to put links on it for people to be able to hear the interviews, the videos that are on display out there, and you'll have a chance to see here today. There on it. So we'll keep adding to that website. I think it's been really useful, the website. Then again, it's not accessible to everyone, but it's accessible to an awful lot of people. In the village we have computer silver surfers classes, you know. What a hip title. Hoping that, and we've got a wee computer suite in the village now, so we are hoping people in Doak will start to visit that and start to look at the website here. The book which we have here, it's free. The book is free. But like everything else, there's no such thing as a free dinner. We have asked, we don't get any funding at all for what we do. We have no funding left, but we want to continue with these. There are the CDs. That's William Andrews' CD. Sarah McTrusty's CD. She'll be 100 this September, and that's William Andrew. We hope to continue doing the CDs. We hope to continue with 7 in Doak. We have 70 more people to interview. They all came from starting to approach people and say, "Would you be interviewed?" And then all of a sudden, they did want to be interviewed, and more people have come. So we've got that project to carry on. We hope to be able to produce another book. So if you want a book, the book's there. We would ask for a donation if you're taking a book away. We're suggesting a £5. It's for nothing. We think it is anyway. Just one more word before I stop, and that's our mentor. Part of the monies that we got were for a researcher or someone who could guide us along the right road. We got a fantastic guy who's still working with us, and that is William Rolston, Dr. William Rolston. He worked with us in a previous project, he's worked with us in this project, he's still working with us. There's nothing dripping down into his organisation's funds, so what he's doing as out of interest to our project. So I'd like to thank William a lot for this. Without him, it wouldn't be done. We didn't have the technical know-how. We think we know it now, we think we know it all, until we come across a problem. And what do we do? We're back on the phone to William, and he helps us to find a solution to that. So it's been good for us. I would encourage any village at all wanting to do this to go ahead and do it, but don't be afraid of the task in front of you. There's a solution to things. What we hope to do in our area, which is Doak and Antrim, mostly now in our own council area, when you look at the two villages, we wanted to spread out a wee bit. There are lots of other villages. There's Ballynewer, there's Ballyeaston, and we hope to be able to spread that a wee bit further. We're not going to do it, but maybe some groups in each of those villages would like to do it as well, and we could work in collaboration with each other and share that load a wee bit. That's what we did, that's the project, and I'm really glad, we've got several people here from Doak Ancestry Group, I'm really glad we started. So, thank you very much indeed, William.
Well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you all very much for coming this afternoon. I hope afterwards you'll have a chance to have a look at the exhibition. which is out in the foyer. The work on that, the design work, was carried out by Glenn Rogers of the Rogers-Thompson Partnership, and I think you all agree he's done an excellent job, a fantastic job. It's very crisp and clean. The use of graphics and words really comes together extremely well. And the success of this project was really down to the fact that it was a grassroots, community-driven project. It involved a huge number of local people. It showed a high degree of commitment to that. We interviewed in total some nearly 50 people were interviewed in total across the three communities, and around another 15 people or so were actually involved in carrying out the interviews or providing technical support when the interviews were taking place. And I personally would like to express my sincere thanks to Bob Adams, who was the real rock throughout the entire project across the three communities. He was a real source of strength and encouragement, and I really enjoyed working with him, and I'd like to thank him and his wife Margaret, who's here, for their regular hospitality in their home. Now, as I've said, we interviewed around about nearly 50 people in total across the three areas, and some of them are here today, and we had a fantastic group of intelligent and thoughtful and reflective and articulate people. People who had fantastic memories going right back to the 1920s, and who were able to bring across the story of their communities in a way that you would never find in the history books. I mean, none of the people we interviewed will ever feature in the mainstream history books, but through talking to them, you find out about what was happening in a community. You understand something more about the changes taking place in that community and how they felt about it, how they reacted to it, what they felt about advances, changes, and so on. And during the project, we actually realised there was an opportunity to make a number of short films. This was not part of the original project, but the opportunity arose. And I had worked with a chap called Chris Nelson in the early part of last year, very tangentially, I must say, in my own case, but the Ulster Starter Foundation worked with him and Mark Thompson on a project on Castlereagh writers, and we were very impressed with the quality of the films he made. So we were able to bring in his skills and his abilities to create a series of short films for each of the communities. So we selected 4 people in each of those places, and they were interviewed as part of the project, and then Chris was able to put it together with graphics and so on. So we could start off with the first one of those. Tomb. So the first one was Tomb. The first of those was Tomb. And in Tomb we interviewed a wonderful collective. Collectively they totalled something in excess of 360 years. The oldest was John Cushnan at 96, and also Marianne Higgins, who was 94. We interviewed also Frankie Dale and Matt Quinn. Now, Matt Quinn was incredible. Matt Quinn was a fisherman who'd been fishing in Lough Neagh for over 50 years. And when you see Matt on the screen, you'll see he really thinks before he speaks and when he's speaking. He's very, very reflective in what he has to say. It was like that throughout the whole interview. I mean, we were recording these people for maybe half an hour, but we can only use maybe 2 minutes, maybe not, probably actually not even 2 minutes of their actual interviews in the films. But you really learn about what life was like out on the loch fishing over that time, and the changes over that time. So we'll watch the first of the videos then, the films on Tomb.
Welcome to the Living Memory short film on Tomb, where we will hear recollections of some of the people whose early lives were spent in this area. John Cushnan was born in 1918, and he recalls that his dietary requirements were simple.
Oh, plenty of potatoes. And a big potatoes jump and a jab of butter to say to it. We had cows who were own and churning the milk and as our own butter.
During the Second World War, an aerodrome was built near Toom, and it had a major impact on the district. As a boy, Frankie Dale was fascinated by it.
Oh well, 1940 you see, I was just starting to go in the yard, and of course the sky was full of aeroplanes. This was great, full of aeroplanes. And then to find shooting at them, my caterpillars got over, and it was a great time, and I used to go down to the aerodrome there and see them taking off and landing, and this was magic, you know. I didn't realise a lot of them old boys would never come back, go on to Europe. But the building there, the aerodrome over there was a big shock to the small farmers over there. They had to get out. One man died. A beautiful farm just bulldozed away. He couldn't get over it. So it was a traumatic experience for those small farmers. But the Americans really made a job of the creek. They drained it. It was very boggy. And you see what they have there now, all their factories, it's a great spot. As soon as work was over on a hot summer day, down to the islands, as we call them, and down to Swan down there. The lake was clear as crystal, lovely.
When most people think of Toom, they think of the eel fishery. Matt Quinn has been fishing on Loch Ness for nearly 3/4 of a century.
It's a hard life, the fishing, but it's enjoyable too, like whenever you getting good catches, you're a good fella, where we just land them at the shore, and you put them into, we call them tanks, but they're like cages or something like that, and you had to try and keep them living. So we had tanks on the shore to put them into, to keep them alive. When we were lifting a line, and you have a big burden, and you have a piece of wood across the mess of it, there, just, and a knife on it. And you immediately put it up onto the burn, and you had water running into the burn, and then you had water running out, you had a pump on the engine to lift water from, it goes on the burn until that run out. Used to be there's only buckets, but then you just put the water in more buckets. But then after that, they got these pumps, and what's the knowledge of it? William John Johnson, he would have taken near the co-op, take some sales. They had 4 men or 5 down there to bring the whole row. We had tanks on the lorries and pumping air into it. And we was into Tim and a big, called them chutes or something. And back the lorry up alongside these chutes and just heating water and all, and runs out and eels just sort of went down the chute. The results things is very, very rough. I had a brother was drowned on it. Coming in from Seven, and it wasn't that rough. Look at rougher days than that now. 26th of November, 1948.
At one time, flax was one of our staple crops. It was the essential ingredient in the local linen industry. Mary Ann Higgins remembers well the flax harvest.
Well, the flax was pulled and tied, and so called them beats, I think, and then it was put into a dam, water, and kept there for, I think, about 10 days or something, till it became brittle on the outside, then it was spread out and had to be dried, tied up again and taken to the mill then to be scratched. When coming out the dam, it was kind of rotten. Remember we used to be spreading it, and you'd no labour and money in the smell of it. But I think you would come in and get theirs closer up.
In the days before tractors, horses were essential for farm work. John has a wonderful story about a neighbour's horse.
That's not happening outside.
Welcome to the Living Memory short film on Tomb, where
What's that? He's just sort of went down the chute.
And so, brittle on the no labour and money in the smell of it. But I think you would come in and get theirs closer up.
in the days before tractors, horses were essential for farm work. John has a wonderful story about a neighbour's.
Get out and had to be dried.
In the days before tractors.
Doesn't matter.
Sorry we couldn't show you the John story with the horse, because it's actually very funny, and it's the way he tells it. I can't tell it the way he told it, but this is what he said. They were very intelligent animals, horses. The neighbour next to us, Andy Greer. Andy was a bachelor, but he employed an old lady to look after him, and he employed a horseman. The horseman maybe could have been 2 field length away from the house at lunchtime at 12 o'clock, and this lady had a powerful calling voice. She called them, and the men never heard her, but the horse snickered. The horse heard her, so they knew immediately that it was 12 o'clock. The horse was just as keen as them to get in for a feed. So certainly from that you get a feel for Tomb and the what mattered to the people who were interviewed as part of when they were filmed. Moving on to Doak, and Doak is in many ways very different from Tomb. Tomb, of all the 3 places, Tomb was the settlement most closely associated with its rural hinterland. Doak was much more a mill village, certainly with many farms around it, but the village as a village, it was very much a mill village. We will hear from people who worked in the mills and what their experiences were. We'll hear from one of the local farmers about the changes in farming technology and how that made a difference to the farm. And we'll also hear a very interesting story from Derek Lorimer about how in 1941, spring 1941, German bombs fell on his farm. It was related to the Belfast Blitz. The Belfast Blitz is a familiar story, but how many of you knew that Doak was also bombed in the Second World War? And so we'll hear from Derek as he tells that story.
Welcome to the Living Memory short film on Doak, where we will hear recollections of some of the people whose early lives were spent in this area. The main source of employment in and around Doak was the textile industry. Hundreds worked in the spinning mills at Doak and Coggery and at the bleach works at Springvale. Isabel Cooper spent most of her working life in Springvale.
in Springvale out until in 1949. I was about 17, and I was there most of my life. Well, I went into Springvale at first was to learn to dress yarn and had it, you know, to get put on the bunches and put away in the lorry. And then I moved on to that until there's a place where they baled the yarn, they call it the stitch, and in there, and we made the bales, you know, the yarn, put them in the big bales and strapped them up and dressed them and all, and had them ready for the transport to go abroad, different countries. And never anybody heard me saying I didn't like Springvale.
Agriculture was also an important part of life in this area. Let's listen to Mary Moore and Billy Robson talk about their memories of dairy farming in the 1940s.
We were happy. They were happy days. The best days of your life. My daddy bought me 2 hen houses, and I've worked with fowl and done whatever was to do on the farm. I helped to milk and done whatever I had to do, whatever was told to do. If there was 2 or 3 of you milking half a day, 8 or 10 cows, it was good fun. So it was, you took it. Maybe the old cow would put her foot in the bucket and spelt it, but you just get up and went on with it.
Well, I've no doubt that the cows have been up by hand in the early days. I can't really remember the cows that were up by hand at home, but I can just remember a milking machine being installed, so the two things coincided. I think the first milking machine in the bar was installed about 1941 or 1942, which made a tremendous change to the labour required for getting the milking done.
In 1941, during the Belfast Blitz, 4 bombs were dropped near Doak from a German warplane. 2 of them landed on Derek Lorimer's farm.
It wasn't the next morning that we realised what had happened, you know, that we knew it was bombs, but we didn't know there was an ear. There wasn't so much damage done to the dwelling house, it was mostly outhouses. There was stones coming down, breaking slates, and well, there was quite the size of a crater, you know, the one that landed near the road up there, it wasn't as deep as this one out here because it was in rock. This one out here was more gravel and it was a deeper one. That one there would have been the nearest, approximately 100 to 150 yards from the house. But they said we didn't get any shock when we were on the bombs. They said the shock went out over us. There was houses about a mile away and their ceilings come down with the shock. But we had nothing but that. Said the shock went out over the top of us. So people come in their crowds to see Danny said that they did far more damage to the crops than what the bomb actually did. So yes, there was quite a few. There was a stone come down through the barn loft and through the floor of the barn loft and landed beside a horse. I would say the stone was 100 weight. And just landed beside the horse. And that horse didn't eat for 2 days. You know.
Find out more about the recollections of many other people from Doak at the Living Memories website.
Okay, so the final video is of Whitehead, and again Whitehead is very different from Doak and Antrim. Whitehead is really more of a small town. It's somewhere that has a much more urban character. It was also somewhere where there would have been many more professionals among the local population. It did have a rural hinterland, and we did interview two people who lived on a farm just outside the village. One of the people who, first of all, we had interviewed, with audio equipment, John Milligan. And John, in the course of his interview, referred to his mother. I thought, well, we've interviewed John, why not interview his mother? And his mother was 98, and she was remarkably fresh and bright and clear, and her memory was absolutely brilliant. But sadly, she died just before the project actually finished, but we did have her interview, and we were able to include her in the film as well. So we also met a wonderful couple called Brian and Kathleen McKenna, who had grown up in Whitehead, had lived there all their lives, and were providing us with real insight into what life is like and the good sense of community spirit that existed in Whitehead between people of all backgrounds. And so let's watch the Whitehead film now.
Welcome to the Living Memory short film on Whitehead, where we will hear the recollections of some of the people whose early lives were spent in this area.
Well, I suppose the railway station would have been sort of the main focus of the town, because, as you say, you had the buses and you had the trains, and you would have had parcels coming in. You also would have had big items coming off the train. Maybe people were having delivered from Belfast, and they would have been delivered maybe on the porter's sort of truck and have been taken. They could have wheeled it anywhere really, but not sort of massive things, but just enough. And small parcels coming in buses. The train, just the station and everything, that was the main focus of the town, because a lot of people were employed. Like you had the porters and the signalmen, and then you had also the permanent waymen who would have come down, would have fixed everything. It just was a hive of activity. Just there was so much going on that it just seemed to be the main focus.
In the 1950s and the 1960s, Whitehead's tourist industry was booming, with thousands of visitors every summer. Brian McKenna remembers the impact this had on the town.
Well, the Buenos Aires tours started up and brought people from north of England, Lancashire, and those counties up there. He came over to Larne on the boat, picked up on a bus. There was up to 10 buses every week in the summertime. He stayed for a week, about £15 full board, everything, travelling and everything. All working class people. And they were fed well, looked after well, and they really enjoyed themselves. They would have gone in the buses during the day around the north of Ireland, Giant's Causeway, Belfast, even went the train to Dublin.
Whitehead was a town with family-run shops. Kathleen McKenna has fond memories of one particular shop where she was sent regularly by her mother for groceries.
If I had to do my shopping for Mummy, I would have gone to a shop, Dan Gillen's shop, and it sold everything. And you'd have got your bacon and tea and sugar, and all weighed out. And the smells in it would have been lovely. Just the smells of and the butter sometimes would have come not in the way it was now, but you could get what you wanted in the butter as well. You got some items maybe of bread or vegetables, but mostly then you had the bread man calling to the house, and it was lovely to see all the big trays being pulled out with the pastry and just everything that, as I say, it was like a lion's cave, all these buns being pulled out, and the smell again.
Greta Milligan was born in 1916 and moved to a farm near Whitehead in 1942. One of her tasks was making butter.
Oh yes, it was a great big churn inside the kitchen, and it led out to where the horses drove a wheel round and round, that drove the milk and the churn, and you end with butter, and then you strained it off, and had to make the butter then. You got nice cold water from the well out in the field, and then you had to put salt into it, then you had to strike it to get any little hairs out, and then you had to put it into pots, and then it was sold and used by ourselves. Well, all the grocery shopping, of course, was done from the grocer in Ballycarry. He came round for the order and then delivered it probably the next day. So you got everything from him.
Those who grew up in Whitehead remembered fondly the strong sense of community and the good relationships between people of all backgrounds in the town.
Well, because it was a town of roughly, I think, 2,000 in my day, in the 50s and 60s, everybody tended to know each other fairly well, so that made it a sort of fairly cohesive little town, and so it was pleasant where you would greet. In those days anyway, everybody tended to greet people on the street. Because you knew them.
If you played with somebody from another church, what time do you get away that? And so did that, and that's all there was to it. It didn't matter.
Find out more about the recollections from many others from Whitehead at the Living Memories website.
That's it, ladies and gentlemen. One thing would be, one last point, of the people that we did interview, 5 people have now passed on. So that's why it's such a poignant thing, and that's why it's so urgent for us. When we've interviewed these people, and it was only months ago, and they were so alive and so vibrant and such clear memories, and were so full of life and full of their memories, and got so much from their lives, and now those people are away. So the people who are left behind them can no longer ask the questions because they're not here. So we would hope that to continue the project, keep recording these interviews, and maybe we'll do another book at some stage. At the moment, Whitehead have continued. There's a lady that we did interview, a lady called Hanny Reinhardt, and she decided it would be good to keep the thing going, so she interviewed a guy called Trevor Monteith, whose grandfather owned a shop, and you saw a picture of it there in Whitehead. He also was the bank manager in Whitehead. So they recorded him. He's now on YouTube. He's got reached the big heights of YouTube. So if you go on to Living Memories Whitehead, then Trevor Monteith will come up and you can listen to his interview. We would have ours. We're going to put links on the website. We're going to have to do a transcript of the main bones of the interviews. Toom are doing the same thing. They produce CDs, and will also add bits and pieces to the website. So between the 3 villages, Toom and Doak will continue to work together, and we're so keen on this. The only thing is we need to have more and more people come in, and especially younger people who would have the knowledge, the technical knowledge that we frankly don't have, but we would like to recruit more people to get involved in this, and certainly would like to work in close contact with other villages and other communities nearby who would like to do the same thing. So I hope you enjoyed that. As I say, you can see the exhibition outside.